and welcome if this is your first time here. I'm Zena and I'm the face behind from the SheShed France, and this morning I'm going to be doing a video walking you through how to make a roasted squash soup. One of the things I really like about making a roasted squash soup is that it's very simple to do, it tastes good, but you can switch in and out ingredients as you see fit. So I got given this squash by our local farmer, but I have made this soup using a butternut squash, really whatever you've got to hand that will work. So one squash, a few onions, and I am a bit sort of, when I'm cooking, that I look at something and think, that's going to be about right. So I'm not going to have anything like as much onion as I have squash, but these are quite small onions, so once they're peeled, there's going to be quite a lot of wastage. So I need a few more than I might have normally. If they were a bit bigger size, I'd probably only have about 2 or 3. And then I'll have some garlic. Now, garlic is entirely up to you. If you don't like it, leave it out. If you like it, really like it, add more. How you want to do it is entirely up to you. And the first stage of this is obviously to get things roasted. So what I'm going to be doing is chopping it all up and putting it in this pan. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is sort my squash. Take the top and the bottom off, just get rid of them. And what you'll find is there's a lot of seeds inside. Now, you don't want them in your recipe, so with a spoon just scrape round the inside and get rid of them. Very simple to do. They come away really quite easily usually, so there's not a problem doing this. Let me just do that. And there we go. The second half is now clean as well. What I'm going to do now is chop this into pieces. It can be left quite large, so about like that is fine. I'm not deskinning them, the skin stays on, and so they go at this stage into my roasting dish. All my squash is now chopped and in the pan, so I'm just peeling the onions. I'm not very accurate about this, it really doesn't matter. I want to get the outer skin off, and then I will chop them literally into lumps. So I will show you, well, quarters mostly really, so like that, and just straight into the pan. I am now adding my garlic. I do take the paper off. Some people say that they don't bother. It really depends. I think it's better without. But if you're trying to peel garlic, one of the easiest ways I learnt many years ago is to get the bulb and get a heavy duty knife and smash. And actually then the paper element starts to come away, and you can literally be lifting your cloves away from the paper element, which makes life an awful lot easier. So all of my ingredients are now in my roasting dish. I've got my squash, my onions, my garlic. At this stage I'm going to add a good pinch of sea salt. I like to use sea salt, I like the crunchiness of it, but you can get it very cheaply in places like Aldi and Lidl. They always have it, and it's not expensive. If you buy it in other supermarkets, you'll pay a lot more for it. So salt, and obviously a good grind of pepper. These are going to add flavour. Sorry if you can hear a funny noise in the background. One of the dogs has decided that this is the moment that they need a very large drink. And being a Labrador, they drink a lot. So there we go, salt and pepper. And then the last ingredient at this stage is my oil. And again, I just give it a shake all over so that most of the veg have got a little bit of a coating, and that's it. It's now going to go into a preheated oven between 180 and 200 degrees Celsius, and that's going to cook for between 15 and 20 minutes. Whilst that's in the oven, it gives me the opportunity to make my stock. Now, I tend to use just a stock cube or a stock pot, whatever I've got to hand. If you've got fancy stock, that's great, but if you haven't, it really doesn't matter. What I would say is that I'm not vegetarian, but I tend to, if I've made a vegetable soup, I use a vegetable stock. That way, if I ever freeze it and then later need to feed a vegetarian, I know that my vegetarian soup is definitely vegetarian. In fact, this one would be vegan because there is nothing in it at all. So it's entirely up to you. Some people prefer putting some chicken stock in because they think it adds more flavour. I really don't think it makes any difference at all, and I tend to, as I say, prefer to use a vegetarian stock if I'm using or making a vegetarian soup. I make my stock very simply. I've put my stock cube in the bottom of the jug here. I'm adding boiling water on top. I will give it a good stir. It will take a little while for the stock cube to break down. I will make almost a litre. I can't make the full litre because my jug's broken, and it will leak. But I can always add a bit more in later. But you can see it will start to break down very quickly. There's no fanciness to making stock. Just simply put a stock cube in a jug, add some boiling water, and you've got a suitable stock for making soup, putting in casseroles, all sorts of different things, but on this instance, for making our soup. I'm going to be honest and say I completely lost track of time this morning. I have no idea how long it's been in the oven. So if that happens to you, don't worry about it. Open your oven up. It's not going to do them any harm. Try not to get steamed up like I do. Give it a shake. I can see that that still needs another 5 to 10 minutes. I know from having cooked this before that it's not soft enough yet. So I'll just show you what it looks like at the moment. And you can see that some of the veg is starting to soften, but it's not quite there yet. It's the squash I'm particularly concerned by. So I'm going to put it back and give it another 5 to 10 minutes. I've just pulled it out of the oven. It's had an extra 10 minutes. And you can see that some of it has started to just caramelise slightly brown, very, very soft now, which is exactly what I want. And so it's at a perfect point now. It's really, really nice and mushy and breaking up. Perfect point to turn it into soup. I'm now going to tip the entire contents of my roasting dish into a saucepan, because the last stages are best done in the pan that I will reheat the soup in later. So it's a bit of a tricky process, but there we go. It's all going in now. Do make sure that you give your pan a good scrape. You don't want to leave anything behind because you're leaving the lovely flavours behind. And that's not what you want to do. Oh, I nearly missed a bit. Having got all of my vegetables into my pan, the next thing I'm going to do is to blend it up with a stick blender. Apologies, this is a bit of a noisy process. My vegetables have now become a puree. As I said, I used a stick blender. I recently bought that one in a second-hand shop. I go through stick blenders, they don't last forever, so I very rarely buy them new anymore. I tend to just pick one up as and when. I will, in the information box, put all of the recipe ingredients and also the utensils that I've used. There are other ways that you could do it. If you've got a food processor, you could use that. You could even try, if you have nothing else, using a potato masher. You won't get a smoother puree, but at least you will be able to blend it up. It's worth also saying at this stage that there are lots of ways that you can jazz this soup up. I have been known in the past to put chilies in when I'm roasting my vegetables. What I would say to you though is that if you're not aware of it, when you blend a chili, it becomes much hotter. So just be a bit aware of that. One of the things you might want to do if you want a bit of spice is use some dried chili flakes. They can actually add a nice bit of flavour. So now what I'm going to be doing is adding my stock that I have made. I'm not going to add it all at once. I'm literally going to add a bit, stir it and see what I think of the consistency, because I would like my soup to remain relatively thick. I'm going to be using it as supper this evening, so I don't want a really thin soup, but sometimes people want thinner soups. It's really down to you at this stage. So I've added just under half a litre. I'm going to add a bit more and then I'll see where we're at. I wouldn't add it all at once, and one of the reasons for that is it's more difficult to stir it in. You need to be blending it in with your wooden spoon. And so if you've got too much liquid and too much that's more solid, it just slops about. It's much easier to do when it's like this, that you're actually just adding a bit at a time. And it's quite nice, this consistency that it is, but I think I might have it go just that little bit further, so I'll just put a little bit more. But I won't be using all of this. And in fact, I've probably now made it slightly thinner than I would have liked. But there you go. No. Good as I stir it through. Now at this stage you can do a variety of things. You can just put it onto the heat for a couple of minutes and serve. You can stand it to one side and leave it until later in the day and then reheat it over a low heat. When you heat soup, do be careful. Make sure that you're using a low heat to start with to bring it up, and stir it well. Otherwise you do get pockets in it and it bubbles and it spits and not very nice. Or you could at this stage put it to one side, leave it to go completely cool, put it into portions and freeze it for when you want to use it. So it's really entirely up to you what you're going to do at this stage, but just so that you can see, it's a really nice colour, quite a nice consistency there. And that's my soup. Thank you for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. If you have, give it a like, subscribe, ring the bell, that way you'll know when I next upload. Just to remind you, I will put all the information of the ingredients and the utensils in the box below. If you want to have more of a conversation with me, why not follow me on Facebook? I'm on From the SheShed France. Other than that, it just leaves me to say thank you once again, and I'll see you again soon.